San Francisco, California. 1859. Although Paris was bigger than San Francisco, it had things that were no longer visible at first glance. Apollon knew it now. She realized that the rare rain that followed her to California fell on her, but did not get her wet. She knew herself to be repellent to the soak. She didn't have to run away or protect herself from it. With ease, with a quick glance, she could perceive in several places what she was exploring. The gloomy mold of moisture on the walls did not cover the opportunity that the eyes were looking for to take advantage of it before all was lost in the conformity of visual programming. She ceased to be that enigmatic woman who came from France. After a couple of years, she got used to drinking and smoking with customers in Gustave's business. Drunkenness always got her in a good mood. She sang French to customers, laughed and charmed everyone. She now adored the bustle, the banging of glasses, table games, and betting chips. She liked people to listen to her even if she said nonsense. She believed that her elegant life was in bars and casinos. All the time clean, smelling of charm, perfumed and well-dressed, as she has always dreamed of since she lived in Paris. She entertained customers with her limited piano skills. They offered her many gifts, and she knew it was wrong to accept them if she wanted to maintain respectability. She did not pay attention to anyone who tried to hijack her morals. She didn't need someone to tell her it was bad to receive them. Anyway, she didn't receive them. She saw the prostitution that happened on the second floor of the bar as something in the business that did not belong to her. Apollon felt she had the intent of whatever she wanted. She proposed many ideas that she brought from the bar of her father in the village of Bercy in Paris, and Gustave accepted them. He was delighted with her. The first night they put them into practice, she felt like the owner, with the power to order anyone. On some nights, after closing and there were no customers, when sales had been good, on the first floor, she would untie her corset and take off her bra. With her breasts exposed, she went up to the second floor and ended up asleep in one of the empty beds, exhausted. She didn't go back home with Louis. In those moments she felt strong, virago, in control of the whole business. It wasn't like her life in Paris, depending on her father all the time. France was still with her, but she didn't need it anymore. Here she felt independent. She thought she was the Marianne of the painter. She was not ashamed to show her breasts in the dark to nourish her freedom. She did what she wanted. And although she needed Gustave, she felt that she could handle the situation and, most importantly, handle him. Apollon often wondered what her father would think if he saw her now. A woman of the world, managing the men like puppets in the bar. Her favorite customers were newly arrived businessmen, East Coast Americans with great fortunes. The most difficult were the wealthy investors, those interested in the sophisticated and elegant French woman. They were all looking for only one thing, and Apollon would never give it to them. Immigrants and miners were the customers of Mexican, Chilean, and American women. They were not hers. Apollon sang to them at most, flirted with them when she sat at the piano, or gave them advice on which card to throw in games. About the Pharaoh card game because it was so popular, and in San Francisco she learned who to associate with when she played and gambled. In the end, she was in it only for the gold and the money. She didn't receive in the bar all the salary that Gustave once promised her. No woman in a bar in the city. It was just a hoax. One more trap, Louis would say. But despite that, after a while she thought they could rent a better room. Perhaps in the near future, with the few savings increasing, they would buy a small solarium on the outskirts of the city. She discarded some things she thought about immediately when she left Paris. Also, though she once agreed with Louis, she didn't know if she wanted to go back to France. She thought about what the best for Louis was. She also thought about her father, But it had been more than a year since she had written to him, still had not received a reply. She put many things aside, except for Louis. She saw him with loyalty and affection. After all, she was there because of his companionship. Apollon and Louis lived in a small room that Gustave helped them get by paying a reasonable rent. The two would sometimes talk and recall about some of the things that made life in Paris wonderful. But she wasn't sure she'd like to repeat it all. She got the idea that she would be in America forever. She felt that the place and even that small room belonged to them despite the shortages. The bed to sleep, for example, the one that her mother taught her that once she wakes up it should not be used again during the day, it was no longer a bed. She used it for many other things, even to eat. And all that rebellion empowered her. Louis was the one who occupied the bed the most. The time he spent on it had grown longer over the years. When Apollon went to work, she saw him lying down, resting. When she returned, he was often still in the same place. When she saw him, she sometimes remembered the plan that they agreed to and wanted to return to Paris. Perhaps it would be the best thing for both. Maybe Louis's health would even improve. Who knows, maybe we could get married and live together. As a humble reward of compensation, she thought. They agreed to this when they left La Grange 2 years ago. But Apollon no longer knew how she felt about him, although not as much as the one she felt with Gustave. It was becoming harder and harder for her to resist him. To his image of experience, like the men in the bar in the village of Bercy. To his charm, attention, and protection. And especially to his fortune. She was right at the top of popularity. The earnings helped them both to live in a stable way. She found it unfortunate that she had to give up all that. For the first time she thought she would achieve what she wanted in life, and she felt unpleased that she had to give it up because of Louis. San Francisco, California. 1860. After many nights that felt less intoxicating with alcohol and more with indecision, there was one when an unusual mist entered the bay. One could say that it was special and unique because of its rarity. It seemed to combine with the stinking of the sea to purposely create. That night, Louis felt sicker than usual, as if the mist was causing him something that resembled a sudden, fulminant asthma attack. Fearing the arrival of the worst, Apollon decided not to go out to work and to take care of him, something she had never done. It was the first time moment she thought that Louis would not live any longer, that he would not see the night's end. She called a busboy who lived nearby to tell Gustave that she would go later. Louis, with Apollon by his side, felt that his life would not yet come to an end, but on the contrary, that it would improve. He thought that the night would pass quickly and calmly for the first time in many months. And indeed, with the minutes and her by his side, time felt passing by that way in the night. A rare magic seemed to have arrived, accommodating everything. Disappeared. At that moment there were no more outbreaks or breathing problems. After the mist had done its work, it withdrew from the bay, satisfied to lay over the city such an exceptional disguise in the form of a French felt cloak. Louis's optimism and good humor returned in less than 2 hours in own. Apollon's presence at his side seemed like a miracle medicine. It had been so long since they had spent a night together, talking as before about their days in Paris. Memories became living statements describing details. The roses of hands, the fingers inside the hair, the legs coiling up, all that resurrected. Apollon gradually remembered all this with an excitement that sought to settle on the small bed. She had that ineffable affection that fell asleep and now woke up. For the second time she felt like meeting Louis, as if it was the first time. To the young baker with beautiful green eyes and big dreams she was attracted to back in Paris by speaking softly with an extinct youthful tone. The caresses continued on the neck, on the arms, on the shoulders, on the back. The eyes directed the lascivious glances. Then they suddenly turned into deep kisses. Very soon the skin of their bodies was the only barrier that stopped the night breeze moving from the Sierra Nevada to the bay. Apollon, not remembering how to kiss this man, could not control the carnal madness when she saw herself naked. There were two hands holding her swaying breasts. She clung to Louis's, though she couldn't see it, and pulled him inwards, completely ignoring the count of the long seconds they had been stuck together like a body. Louis's asthma was mistaken for exultation that he tried to hide with deep breaths, but no rhythm. All the air in the room was saturated with something else. Something that people said had arrived at the old port of Yerba Buena with the immigrants. These were dreams, desires, love, and hope. Some said it was reeked of garbage. Others said that it was a good sign. The great achievements and the sad defeats. All impregnated in seaweed, and its smell reached Cisco. That smell seemed to exist in the sweat of the two of them, between legs and armpits, joints and muscles. It came out for the first time as something pleasant, as a spray of confidence and illusion. The seaweed didn't mind saying goodbye to the sea or dying, as long as it could feel the same way. Alas, by a brief coincidence. Apollon and Louis talked for the rest of the night about the future. They agreed that they felt tired of this new life. Of working for money, without counting it or enjoying it. To always spend more than planned, and leave the savings at zero again. To eat without hunger because if not, you won't do it due to lack of time. To talk to any stranger who approaches you so as not to feel the loneliness of your mouth. Also so as not to forget your own language. He was tired of everything in this new world full of haste. But more than anything, he did not want to lose the security that they sought together. Due to the disease, he did not know how much time he had left. By the time dawn came, for the second time he thought he had convinced Apollon that it was time to return to Paris. Even though she was used to feigning indifference, she accepted the proposal a second. Knew Louis was right. They had to return to Europe before it was impossible for both. And from that moment on, look for a way to save a little more for paying for the tickets. Everything had become irrationally expensive in recent years. Perhaps it was time to end the dissidence.